Hey.
You don't mind if I switch up the microphone better?
Yeah, yeah. So Zoom has been having issues today. I just I was lecturing for about 10 minutes this morning and didn't realise they couldn't hear me. It was just slides. But you will need to, if you've got your laptop, you'll need your laptop with you because we're going to introduce the groups that you'll be in for your grant review. I'm hoping everything's settled down now. We don't lose too many people or gain too many people, but if they do, just integrate them into the group. I don't think he was meant to be in it. I'm not sure he's meant to be in here if he's not. It's confusing for me because there is people that have just truly been online and I can't see the faces. So I have a clue if they're meant to be here or not sometimes. So I've kept the screens down on the desk today because I just wanted to reorientate people at some point when you know what groups you're in. So when you come back to the class in the future, you kind of know where to sit. And hopefully through Zoom, when you show your face to the people that are working remotely, if they choose to come in, they'll know where to sit because they'll recognize your face. Hopefully. If not, we can tell them where to sit. Okay, so hopefully everyone can hear me remotely. Just say yes if you can. And if you're in the class, you will need to sign on to the Zoom link through the Zoom link on the Canvas. Cool. So they can hear me. Good. So what I wanted to do today is give everyone an overview on the kind of the grant writing process, give you some insight into well, this is NIH focused, but a little insight into the NSF. As many of you will probably go on to have budding academic or industrial careers, you'll realize that money is important to keep these groups running. So you will continually be faced with writing grants, obviously depending on the position you take. So let me just share my screen. And actually what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to introduce you to your groups that you'll be working with. And then we'll also pick the projects you'll be working on as well. But what I wanted to do was leave quite a, 15 minutes hopefully of time where you can introduce yourself to each other online and obviously face to face if you're here, to give people an outline of what you do, what your background is. How I've kind of distributed with the groups is that we'll have majority biomedical engineering students, which is obviously a biomedical engineering course, but I've also integrated people from different other departments into each group as well. So it should work fairly well. It gives a good balance of skill sets in there. So let me just share my screen there. Okay. So you should be aware that there is two main funding bodies within the US, or government funding bodies within the US. The first one is NSF, and their mission is to promote the progress of science, to advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, and to secure the national defense and other purposes. The NSF vision is that it aims to create a nation that capitalizes on new concepts in science and engineering and provides global leadership and advancing research and education. NIH, on the other hand, mission is to seek fundamental knowledge about the nature and behavior of living systems and the application of that knowledge to enhance health, lengthen life, and reduce illness and disability. Now, the two distinctions I would probably make between the NSF and the NIH is the NIH is totally health focused. So when you're looking at biomedical applications, NIH is probably the go-to place for those things. The NSF is a little bit more fundamental, I would say. It's probably more centered on lots of the pure sciences, things like that, fundamental discoveries. But they do also fund sections of that might be interested in biomedical researchers, like a biosensing program they have within there as well. But I think the NSF is very kind of broad, where the NIH you might be dealing with a particular issue, such as a particular disease, and the NSF is more the platform technology. So the National Science Foundation is a United States government agency that supports fundamental research, as I said before, and education in all the non-medical fields. So it's a little bit outside of medicine there, and it's obviously its medical counterpoint is the NIH. So there is some projects that you can apply to both agencies for funding, but generally, if it's more medical based, you're going to the NIH. So they have an annual budget of about 7.8 billion a year. That was 2018, and it funds approximately 24% of the federally supported basic research conducted in the United States colleges and universities. In some fields such as mathematics, computer science, economics, social sciences, the NSF is a major source of federal backing. So that is where the majority of the funding would come from if you're in one of those fields. Now, the NSF is divided into 7 directorates that support science and engineering, research and education. The categories are, or the directorates are, biological sciences, computer and information science and engineering, engineering, geosciences, mathematical and physical sciences, social, behavioral and economic sciences, and education and human resources. Each one of those is headed by an assistant director, and each is further subdivided into divisions like materials research, ocean sciences, and behavioral cognitive sciences. So whilst there is a major support directorate at the top, there is obviously a trickle down system where it funnels through many different divisions. Like I was saying before, biosensing actually comes under what is the engineering division, or CBET as it's actually known as. So these are the subdivisions. So there is a number of relevant. So I've picked a few out here that may be relevant to some of the research that we do within biomedical engineering. But the biological sciences has biological infrastructure, environmental biology, emerging frontiers. Then engineering can be anything such as chemical and biological transport systems, looking at emerging frontiers, and then mathematical and physical sciences, your general subjects such as chemistry, physics, maths. So what happens is, this is an example of how it's subdivided. So the directorate is engineering. Then under that, they have a division, which is the chemical bio. I've just taken this out for example, but chemical, bioengineering, environmental, and transport systems. Under that, they will have a sub-mission, and that mission would be integrated within the main aims of NSF's program. But they use it to discriminate between each of the different divisions in there. And then there is subdivisions under that, such as engineering, biology, and health. And then there is programs which are sponsored underneath that. So that's where you're kind of applying to get the money. So if you're in an optics area, you might be applying to biophotonics. If you're in sensing. And there'll be different kind of missions of each one of those programs as well. So what you have to do is you have to carefully read through what they are looking for. You can contact the program managers as well to discuss with them if your project is something that they're looking for. But the idea is they will lay it out to you in as specific terms as they can what they're going to fund. And that's what you want to know, right? Because you don't want to write a grant for a division or a program that isn't funding your interests. So I'm not going to read through all this, but they all have a synopsis. So this is just from the biosensing program. It has a whole synopsis there of things that they're interested in and what their main interests are at the moment, and they change. So depending on what the important subjects are at the moment, or the important focuses on, they will change their areas of interest, and that might be a good thing, might be a bad thing for you. So within this, you can see actually a little further down, it says that the areas of interest include multiplex biosensing. So they're looking at multiple bioanalytes at the same time within kind of one test platform, different mechanisms, toxins in food. And that, so if that's an interest to you, that's going to be great, right? Because you can write one of those straight away. But that's what you'd have to go through to work out what you can do. The NSF actually helps you or enables you to think about some of the ideas that they are putting the money into by establishing their 10 big ideas. So that was established in 2017, but what they do is they really publish, they publish documentation detailing what they're most interested in and what their vision is for the future, the most interesting projects that they want to see funded. So it kind of sets up a long chain of events for you to start applying for funding and hopefully sustain that funding through. So here's just an example. One of the examples is this big idea. So they're interested in understanding the rules of life. I'm not going to go through all that, but what it does is it will pose general questions that they want to solve, that they deem important for solving. Again, if your lab is well integrated into solving those questions, then this is a really good focus for you because they put quite a lot of money behind it for the NSF. So there is a subdivisions again to those things. So understanding the rules of life is a subdivision of epigenetics under there. The epigenetics program will have different aims to maybe a cellular program. So they will detail in the program description what the difference is there and what kind of projects they're looking for. So that's important. So then when we move to the NIH, they're kind of the primary agency in the United States that are responsible for the biomedical and public health research. So I'm not going to go through all the history of it, but the NIH conducts its own scientific research through its intramural research program and provides major biomedical research funding to non-NIH research facilities through its extramural research program. So the NIH is ranked number 2 in the world for biomedical sciences by the Nature Index, which measures the largest contribution to papers. So that means that the work they are funding is getting into big publications, right? And that's what they're using as a benchmark to say we are funding the right projects because obviously, the big journals are listening. So they have a substantially bigger budget than the NSF. So they have approximately 4 times the budget at $37.3 billion, and that was in 2018 as well, so it's directly comparable. There's lots of separate institutes which come under the NIH. So cancer institutes, drug abuse, mental health, aging. There's lots of different categories that come under there. So you can see there is a few interesting ones, certain to us with the biomedical imaging and bioengineering, things that can be tapped into for regenerative medicine, bone engineering. There's loads of different divisions, and they are set up in a similar kind of way to the NSF, where they will have subdivisions under there, but each one of those institutes will have an individual mission statement, right? So they're really trying to define what they're going to fund and what they're not going to fund, and they will have a mission statement which is important to think about when you're trying to send your application off. Now, there's a comprehensive list of research grants available. If you're using Canvas, you should see I've already posted these lecture slides. I think there's one slide missing at the end, but all the lecture slides are on there. But this will tell you all the different research grants or the code for the research grants that NIH will publish and they'll fund. Now, there's 3 main categories which are probably most important. The first one is an R01, and an R01 is a substantially big, it's quite a big award, and the idea is that if you have a lab, is that you will get publications, you'll get work in one area, generate a lot of preliminary results, and then they would go into an R01 to further develop that on a bigger scale. So what you're demonstrating is that you've already got success in that area. This is where we want to take it. Again, you want to send it to the people that are interested in that, so it's important to work out what divisions and subsections you need to send that to. Now, the so the RO3 is a small research grant. So it's really just trying to give you a small amount of money to get an extra bit of preliminary results that you think would probably back a bigger grant. Although they don't explicitly say that. So they don't say apply for this to get a bit of money and then you can get this. It's just generally accepted that that is probably a good flow. So if you're limited on time, you might want to just get a small amount of money. It's a much smaller grant than the RO1. The RO1 is, I think it's about 12 pages long, and with the RO3 is 6 pages long. But what we're really going to concentrate on is the R21, and that's an exploratory and a developmental grant there. So what we're really interested in doing is looking at novel ways we can apply some of the biomaterials that you'll study in this class and some new ones that you'll learn about to specific applications. Now, I've got some areas of focus that I'll give to you a little bit later on, but the idea is that it's a totally exploratory grant. It's a new area, it's a new application, it's something that you want to branch out into as a group, and you can discuss this as a group, what you think is important. But you have to establish that. So you have to demonstrate why it's important for solving this problem, and that is probably going to be the key part to when you start doing these grants is you want to identify a problem and you want to say why your idea is going to solve that problem. So it's an R21. The R21 is, I've got the list there of what it is, but the project is up to 2 years, so it's not a long amount of time. You don't get too long. You can't exceed a budget of 275,000. Now I know that seems a lot, and you go, oh, 275,000, do a lot with that. There is a lot of costs that come out of that, right? So you have to pay indirect costs to the university as well, right? They take a good chunk of it, about 50% of it. So you definitely, but I mean, they support the lab, right? So it makes sense. But it doesn't mean that you would get 275,000 to do whatever you want with them. You'll find out that some pieces of equipment are very expensive to acquire. Student time, and that is probably a big one, is expensive to pay for. Postdocs time, things like that, people to run the lab. I think in most businesses, it's the personnel that is going to run the costs for. So I just want to give you a note. I know that seems like a lot, but actually it doesn't work out a lot. So that's why they only give you 2 years to spend it. So the R21 can't be renewed. But hopefully, once you've got your R21 off to a good start, you've got some good preliminary data and some publications, you can start going for those bigger grants than the RO1. So it's it's exploratory to begin with, but hopefully you end up with something bigger. You don't need any preliminary data, and that's really useful for us, right? Because we don't, in this class, we haven't got a lab stuck on the side where we can just go in and do something, right? It's all theoretical, so if you were applying for this grant, that's fine. You don't need any preliminary data, you don't need any preliminary work to write one of these. It's just got to be a topic of interest and an interest to them. And then the research strategy is relatively small, in 6 pages. And I think that when I did this course last semester, people went, 6 pages, I do that, it's easy. It's not, because it has to be structured the right way, it has to be worded the right way. And that's hopefully what you're going to learn as part of this, right? So it's not just about writing 6 pages of something that you think is really interesting. It has to be structured in the right way for people to be able to read it and want to fund it. And it's got to be exciting and it's got to be interesting. It's got to tell some kind of story through it. So there is scope. So we know the scope at the bottom is exploratory and the novel studies, high risk, high reward, right? So no one's done this before, I want to try it. But if it comes off, great. This could revolutionize an area. It could be transformative to a whole area. I wouldn't go overboard and go, right, it's going to cure cancer, because the people reading it are going to go, what? Probably isn't, right? So it's got to be realistic in the boundaries that you're setting to these things. You don't want to push it too far. And then you want to you want to say that they're really distinct from the R01 mechanism, right? So why are you not going for an R01? Why did you need an R21 now? And just justify, almost like, you know, I need to get the preliminary data, and, you know, it's high risk at the minute, no one's doing it, I just want to do it, see what happens, and take it from there. So this is the layout for one. So you have, what's on here? Actually, let me just skip this. This is what they show on their page, but I've summarized it. So the project summary in the abstract is what everyone on a committee will have access to read. So it's the most important part. It's a sales pitch, right? If they read that and they go, oh, not that good, then probably not going to get funded. It's an important part. So in that, what PIs and researchers tend to do is that they'll put the best images in those things, right? They're really enthusiastic about the work, they outline the problem really well and how they're going to solve it. So it is really an interesting narrative, if you like, in trying to persuade someone that they need to be funding this now, rather than later. Project narrative is just a very layman's term summary of what you're doing. It's only 3 sentences long. I'm actually not too sure why that is included, other than that it might be, you know, published on the site so people can see it, but it's not really clear to me what that is. Specific aims, so actually specific aims and the project summary come close together, right? Project summary is more of a layman's term, so it has to be written for people to understand. The specific aims is probably more important, I would say, than the project summary, right? That's the bit that, sorry, everyone in the room would read. I got confused the wrong way around. But specific aims, everyone read. That's where you put in your good images. That's where you put in all your, not detail, but you're putting in the information that they need to know to fund it. BioSketch is an unusual one. It will be an unusual one for everyone in this classroom, because BioSketch is really a representation of you as an academic. And so if we're at grad level, you know, you may be starting off in your publishing career. So it actually doesn't look like you've got a lot, you know, a lot there, whereas some, you know, some PIs, some grad students will have like 10, 12 papers already, you know. So what we try and do is change that format a little bit later on to adjust, but actually, hopefully that is useful for you in just a CV or a resume. All right, so that's how we kind of do it, rather than using the structure that the NIH gives us. And then equipment and facilities. Now this is good for grad students, and it's good for grad students that are coming in, because grad students are never, well, I would say not even grad students, PIs are never aware of what equipment your university's got. And I tell you, Texas A&M is one of the most well-equipped universities certainly I've ever been to for the high-end machinery that they've got. Electron microscopes I use quite a lot in my research. You know, some of those electron microscopes are really expensive. We couldn't imagine having maybe 2 or 3 in Europe as a whole, not in one university that we're at. So that will make you aware of what's here, but you have to plan that precisely, right? So you have to say, for this project, what am I going to need? Now, you wouldn't want to list everything at the university that seems big and expensive, because the reviewer will sit down and go, why would they ever need that for this, right? So you have to be a little bit focused in there. But it gives you a chance to think about what you would have when you were going to set up your lab. So maybe you can use your mentors and your PIs as a focus lab. If you don't have a mentor or PI, just think, what's in the undergraduate labs that I could use? What's the first thing I would need? Hot plate, simple things, but you will have to list them, right? So they have to be in there. Now, that's it from me, and that's a really quick summary of what's going on there. What we will do is I don't want to take a lot of your time talking to you in these lectures. These will be set now for Mondays at grant writing. I don't want to take a lot of your time, but what I will do is guide you through each step, and we'll give you timelines to finish each step. Now, what happened before is that I can give you timelines, and that's down to you whether you ask me for feedback or not. If you don't ask me for feedback, I'm assuming you're sticking to your own timeline and you're good, and that's up to you. I see the grad class as this kind of autonomous setup where it's kind of up to you. If you need help, I'm here. If not, don't worry about it. Keep writing, and that's fine. But there will be a final date when you've got to hand in, and if you don't meet that final date, then we'll have issues. So I've split everyone up. Let me just stop sharing my screen now for a second. And then if we have, let me reshare this. Okay, so you can now see my screen on here. Now I will post this afterwards, so I don't expect you to remember what's going on. Let me just, there we go. But what I want to do is make sure that when you're attending in class, you're in the right positions, because this will be important not only for the grant writing, but this is a group that you'll also work with, not present with, but it's a group that you'll also discuss the papers with. And it gives you a tight-knit group to discuss rather than, sitting how we're sitting and we can't really talk to anyone. So what I'd like actually in the class is if we could get, if you're in group 1, it would be best to be in this position down here. If you're in group 2, maybe the back there, group 3 there, group 4 somewhere at the front. That just means then I know where you are and I know who you're talking to when you're online. I can move around. Now the problem is you're split into 6 and 5s. Now there's only 4 people that can sit at each table, but with a gap of 2 tables in between, it means you can spread out over those 2. That's as close as I can possibly get you in this room. So for those at home, I'm just trying to orientate everyone in the class so they're in the right position, so we know where everyone is. So it would seem a little bit unfamiliar before because I don't know, you'll probably know a few people, but you might not know many people in this class. But this will become your group, right? You will work with this group all the way through. So it's good to, at least establish some kind of rapport and introduce yourself. Now, the important thing, and the reason I asked you if you're in the class to log on to Zoom, is what I can do in Zoom is separate you all out now into separate breakout areas, which is weird because some of you can see, obviously people face to face, but there's people online that will be in your groups as well. So we have to imagine that they're sat there with you. So let me just check now. All right, let me just. Oh. So my issue is at the minute is that it should have automatically done it, and I can't get them. Right, let me auto assign these. Okay, give me a sec. So if you are in class, you feel free, please, to speak to each other and converse. Oh. Ah, okay. So what's happened is at some point some people have dropped off. So that means that the assigning the groups is not recognizing the people. So I'm going to assign the people that are here on there. Is everyone in the room logged on? Sorry? Oh, right, okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. Is it not working? Ah, okay. Well, you're all right anyway because you're face to face. You can probably look at someone else's laptop at the same time there and there. So I'll assign the people that are in the room and then we can work it out from there on. Oh, how is this working? Oh, right, okay. Sorry, I have to assign all these rooms before we can do anything. Yeah. Yeah. This is actually an effective way of taking the register because now I can see who's here. So you should all be in the right rooms now. It should send you an invite to go into your individual rooms. So I can see which rooms you're in. Oh, good. So it all looks like you're in. So the only you in here can hear me now because everyone's. Yeah, is you're not showing up on the list? Let me just check. No. The issue is that there you go. Is that you? No. Is that you? Yeah, so the issue is there's an issue with Zoom at the moment anyway, so some people can't sign into the Zoom. As soon as you're signed in, I will see you there and I can assign you to a group, okay? So now I'm gonna take this microphone off because everyone will hear me, but you should now be able to communicate within your rooms to the other people, the other people that are in there, okay? So please try and communicate with them, see if they can hear you. And then what you want to do is provide an introduction. So only you guys can hear me at the minute, they can't hear me. Provide an introduction and just say, you know, this is my name, this is what I do, this is what department I'm in, and allow it to work like that for now. You might want to put your camera on as well, so they can see who you are. Okay, let me unmute. Sorry, you can't hear me online because I was muted. If you're in, sorry, if you're in group 4, will one of you type in the chat box a number between 1 and 4? 2. Okay. So your project is going to be cardiovascular disease basis. Okay, so you're going to be looking at cardiovascular disease. So then let's do group 2. So you have got 1, 3, or 4 for group 2. Okay, 3 was selected in the room. So 3 is ocular. So you'll be doing something with the eyes. Now you've got 1 and 4 left. Okay, so let's give it to group 1. What do you want? 1, you're doing bone regeneration. And actually, you're doing my favorite one, because this is one I know more about, is the gene therapies, 4. So if you're in group 4, you're doing gene therapies. If you're in group 1, you're doing bone regeneration. If you're in group 2, you're doing ocular. And if you're in group 4, you're doing cardiovascular disease. What I will do is I will post all of those online so you can see what group you will be in. I'll give you the Excel spreadsheet there. So start thinking about interesting areas that you can start developing projects for in those areas. Some significance that needs help, and that will hopefully form the basis of your R21. So when we come back in the room, hopefully next Monday. We can then, I can give you an insight into the specific aims, and you can spend a good part of the session discussing with your group how to do those things. I'm also going to give you a few tips of how we can try and maintain some collaboration between people in the class and people being remote, because I think that's going to be the most difficult thing. So it's, it can be frustrating on both sides, but just understand that that's going to be part and parcel till we settle everything down and understand what works best. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Next lecture, Wednesday, is the paper review. We're going to leave that for the paper reviews. I'm going to show you how to do a paper review and take you through it, and then you will see which groups you're in for that, because we have to do quite a quick turnaround for those presentations. Okay, so that's it from me. So I'll catch you all on Wednesday. Stay safe.